Building this plantation has been hard work, but the determined Englishmen have found strength in their belief that God aided by their labor. To share the harvest, the Englishmen have invited their friends and neighbors, the Indians, for games and contests of skill. Yes, this is a day for laughter and rejoicing. But behind the laughter is a year of memories. By sharing these memories, we shall learn who these brave Englishmen were and why they had given this day over to Thanksgiving. The memories begin not here in Plymouth, nor even on the North American continent. They begin across the Atlantic Ocean in England. Here, during the early 1600s, there arose a religious group called the Separatists. The extremely simple religious beliefs and teachings of the Separatists brought them into conflict with the established religion of England. To escape religious persecution, many of these people were forced to flee their native England. They journeyed to the Netherlands, and later some journeyed to the New World. Those who undertook this perilous journey were later given the name Pilgrims. Early in September 1620, a group of pilgrims sailed for the New World aboard a former merchant ship called the Mayflower. Many of the sailors aboard the Mayflower had already sailed to the New World on cargo or fishing ships. They were a skilled crew. The captain of the Mayflower, an experienced and well-trained sailor, feared that the Pilgrims might interfere with the running of his ship, and so he ordered his crew to make sure the passengers stayed off deck. Conditions below were frightful. About 75 of 102 pilgrims lived cramped into a small space without much light or air. Over 30 of the passengers were children. In their gloomy surroundings, they passed away endless hours, sometimes by playing quiet games, such as cat's cradle, sometimes by playing pranks. Once several boys tried to explode the ship's store of powder, but were stopped by watchful adults. This was one of the few moments of excitement, and for it the boys were properly punished. But mostly life aboard ship was dreary and monotonous. To make matters worse, many of the passengers became ill, some with a disease called scurvy. Yet they were able to stand weeks of living in their dark and cheerless quarters by drawing strength and comfort from the words of the Bible and from their all-powerful faith in a merciful God. After 2 long months of voyaging across the sea, their faith was rewarded on a brisk morning in November 1620. A pilgrim leader described what happened.
After long beating at sea, they fell with the land, which is called Cape Cod. Thus, they arrived in a good harbor and were brought safe to land. They fell upon their knees and blessed the God of heaven who had brought them over the vast and furious ocean and delivered them from all the miseries and perils thereof.
But even before they reached this land, arguments broke out among several of the pilgrims. Some of the men argued that once on shore, the pilgrims must stay together for their own safety. Others wanted to break up into separate parties, each party going where it pleased. The Pilgrim Fathers saw the dangers of disbanding the group. At a meeting in the captain's cabin, they wrote a document which became known as the Mayflower Compact. It was to become one of the great foundations of American democracy. In part, the Mayflower Compact reads,
"We, having undertaken a voyage to plant a colony, do solemnly in the presence of God and one another combine ourselves together in a civil body politic for our better ordering and preservation, and by virtue hereof to enact such just and equal laws as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony. We hereunder subscribe our names at Cape Cod, the 11th of November, Anno Domini 1620.
With the signing of this document, the Pilgrims firmly bound themselves into a single group that would stay together. Now, using the small boat or shallop that had been carried in the Mayflower, a scouting party set out to explore the mainland. A courageous expedition, since they had no idea as to what dangers might await them on shore. Because Indians were their greatest fear, most of the men were armed, but they saw no Indians. Cautiously, they moved inland across the shores of the New World. Discovery followed discovery. Seed corn, which must have been buried by Indians. Waterways that seemed to abound with fish. Forests rich with game and dotted with wild fruit trees. And above all, soil, rich soil, which one of the Pilgrim Fathers called excellent mold. After 6 weeks, the members of the party, late in December 1620, selected a site for the Plymouth Colony. Now shelters must be built. A Pilgrim writer has described how they set to work.
Monday, the 25th day of December 1620, we went on shore, some to fell timber, some to saw, some to rive shingles for roofs, and some to carry, so no man rested all that day. After 3 days, on Thursday, the 28th of December, in the afternoon, we went to measure out the grounds. To greater families, we allotted larger plots. To every person, half a pole in breadth and 3 in length. This proportion was large enough, considerable, many of them growing ill with colds.
The courageous Pilgrims were forced to begin building their homes in the dead of winter. Though they went about their work cheerfully, the cold, damp winter weather and the agonies suffered on their long voyage caused them to become weak and sick.
So as there died sometimes 2 or 3 a day, of 100 and odd persons, scarce 50 remained, and of these there was but 6 or 7 sound persons who spared no pains, night nor day, but with abundance of toil and hazard of their own health, fetched wood for the sick, fed them, made their beds, washed their loathsome clothes, in a word, did all the necessary offices for them which dainty and queasy stomachs cannot endure to hear named.
Slowly, this winter of great hardship and despair passed. March 1621 brought beautiful spring weather. Several of the Pilgrim homes were now completed. The homes were very small and had only few pieces of furniture which the Pilgrims had made themselves. But these sturdy houses were good shelters, where cooking and studying and other day-to-day activities took place. With some families already living in their own homes, the colony became even more firmly established. Yet, tiny Plymouth Colony faced still another problem.
Friday, the 16th of March. This morning, whilst we were busied in military preparations, we were interrupted, for there presented himself a savage. He very boldly came all alone, straight to the meeting house. He saluted us in English and bade us welcome.
This Indian, who had learned English from English fishermen, was named Samoset. He promised to bring other Indians to trade with the Pilgrims. Samoset came again with another English-speaking Indian named Squanto. They told the Pilgrims that their great chief, Massasoit, was nearby. After some thought and discussion by the Pilgrims, Massasoit and his braves entered the Pilgrim village, where the chief was escorted to the governor of the plantation. The two men greeted each other. They ate and drank together. They soon came to speak of peace between their peoples. The Pilgrims suggested a peace treaty by which neither the Pilgrims nor the Indians should do harm to one another. Massasoit listened carefully to the terms of the treaty, and then accepted. And now, with little to fear from the Indians, the Pilgrims allowed the Mayflower to set sail back to England. Watching their last tie to their old home in Europe head out to sea, perhaps the Pilgrims felt a tinge of regret, but certainly they also felt proud. Proud that they had successfully established their colony. Proud that they could now stand on their own in this glorious, untamed land of North America. But there was still much work to be done. When they began to plant their corn, Squanto showed them the Indian way of doing it. How fish were used as fertilizer to grow the corn. And he showed them how and where to catch fish. Much to the joy of all, the work of the Pilgrim farmers brought a great harvest. To celebrate their harvest, they prepared a great feast. This was a day to give thanks to God, a thanksgiving. To their feast, the Pilgrims invited their Indian friends. And so, with a day of games and feasting, we come to the end of a year of memories for the people of Plymouth Colony. Of those Pilgrims who came to this shore nearly a year before, less than half are here. But the sacrifices of both the dead and the living have built something fine and lasting. For on this autumn day in 1621, Plymouth Colony is one of the chief homes of civilization and democracy in the New World. This humble beginning grew with the years, and from its people came traditions of religious and political freedoms that played an important part in the establishment of a new and vigorous nation.